Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
I've talked before about people buying stolen cars and what can happen if you inadvertently buy a stolen car. The police might show up at your place one day and go, hey, that car out there, it's stolen. We're going to take that and give it back to its rightful owner. That happens. But here's a story both Doug and Dennis sent me. Man discovers he has bought his own stolen car. Now, this is from England. The BBC reports this, but it's a freaky story. A man who bought a car to replace the one he had stolen has discovered he's accidentally bought back his own stolen car. And he sunk 20,000 pounds into this. The man's 36 years old. He woke up February 28th to find his car had disappeared from his drive overnight. And his car was a black Honda Civic. So he notified the police, he notified his insurance company, and he started looking for a replacement. And it's a 2016 Type R. And he found one that looked identical about 70 miles away. Now, here's the thing. They build more than one car, okay? So the fact that he found an identical one a few miles away isn't that remarkable. But after he bought it, he started noticing just how similar it was to his. And that's when he realized that he'd bought his own stolen car because the car has a satellite navigation system in it. And it turns out that in its memory, it had stored his address. He told the BBC he was gutted when his car was stolen and was determined to replace it with the same model. He said it was sort of a midlife crisis car, and you don't get many of those. So I was pretty determined to get it replaced before one day I have to get, a family car. He says, I spotted one that was identical. Same color, same year, same slightly obnoxious exhaust system on it as well. It fit the bill precisely. So he paid 20,000 pounds for the replacement, and that was at a reputable dealership. The place he bought it from was reputable, but upon driving it home, he started to get suspicious. I noticed things in the car were a little bit odd, like a single tent peg and some Christmas tree pine needles and Mars bar wrappers, and things that hadn't been cleaned out. And they all seemed familiar, all very similar to what you could have found in my car. That is his car, which was stolen. Despite the car having a new number plate and a lower mileage, the man's suspicions were confirmed when he later discovered his and his parents' address in the history of the built-in navigation system. He says, I nearly crashed, to be honest, because I was in shock. My hands were shaking. My heart was pounding. Part of me felt some sort of triumphant for a moment until I realized, actually, no, this isn't some heroic moment. You didn't go and get your car back. You've actually done something a bit stupid because now he's had all this money. He took the vehicle to a Honda garage nearby and informed the police, who said they could not believe it, but he'd bought his own car. And, of course, they suspected it was stolen to order by unidentified thieves. There are apparently thieves out there who will look for a specific car to steal, and we'll explain that in a second. The Honda technician pulled the physical key out of the original smart key, which the man still had, puts it in the door, unlocks, and he's like, yeah, that's your car. And so they then examined things and discovered that things were tampered with on the car, like the VIN plate and things like that. So remember that there are several places the VIN will appear on a car, depending on the car. Most common one we're familiar with is on the dash at the base of the A-pillar. You can stand outside the car and look through the glass and see it. Quite often, it's someplace inside the door jamb, often on a sticker. And quite often, it's also on the frame rails or someplace else on the actual structure of the car. The man said he believed the garage he bought the car from was also duped, and he now hopes to get his money back as well as his deposit for the vehicle. So I'm not sure if he bought it on time. That'd be a deposit and money. Don't know. But the police and the Honda garage all said this is one of the best clone jobs they'd ever seen. So if it wasn't for these little artifacts, no one would have ever known. And so what can happen, and there's a bunch of different ways this could happen, but what can happen is somebody can get the VIN off of a 2016 Type R model Honda Civic and then go, hey, I just need someone to get me one of these cars. And so somebody gets them a car and they swap out all the information and then they use this title for the car. And quite often, the VIN can simply be a VIN they pulled off of another car, like in another country. I've heard of that happening before. Or it could be, for instance, that if a vehicle was wrecked really, really badly, they can take the title from that car and mate it up with this car here with a swapped out VIN plate. It's a bunch of different ways that can be done. But the crazy part is that, what are the odds? Now, of course, if you think, well, the car got stolen, it's a Honda Civic. The fact that it would only be 70 miles away might not be all that remarkable. But the fact that he went looking to buy one and inadvertently bought his own car. So it's a crazy situation. And I've had a lot of people, when I do these stories, will comment and say, well, it's not his car anymore, it's the insurance company's. So he's out of luck or whatever. And the weird part is that the time frame here, the car was stolen at the end of February, and he recently bought the car. So that's not that many months have gone by. And the insurance company may have said, well, the car is stolen, not recovered. We're going to cut you a check. And this is a weird one, though, because if they cut him the check to buy a car and he bought this car, it all works out. But the ones that people usually mention is when I talk about somebody who, I had a client once who bought an old muscle car from the 1960s. And the police came by one day and said, that car's stolen. And he showed them all the paperwork to prove he'd bought it from a reputable dealer. And they said, oh, but the VIN on this title doesn't match the VIN on the car. And he goes, yeah, it does. And they go, no, not the A-pillar one. And it turns out on his particular car, the VIN was in two places that were really hard to get to. And if you got to them, you discovered that, of course, it was the stolen car. It was not what my client thought it was. And the police retook the car and gave it back to the original owner. And a lot of people said, no, the original owner doesn't get it. The insurance company gets it. Now, here's the thing. If you have a classic car that gets stolen and you have that coverage on it, then yes, if the car got recovered after the insurance company paid you, they might well say that, yeah, it's our car now. But that's assuming you had that kind of coverage on it. And I know a lot of the cars that I've seen stories about were stolen a long time ago, but not so long ago that the amount they would have been insured for would have been that high, so they weren't even insured at all for theft. So I can tell you that the first 2 or 3 cars I owned, I didn't have them insured for theft. So the car got stolen. No insurance company owns that car. If they recovered, it would be mine. It's still my car. But I've also talked to people at insurance companies, and I said, hey, I'm curious about this. Is there anything else I'm not thinking of here or that I've not described? And they say, yeah, there's another thing, is that if we keep that on our books, in other words, if we say that car that you owned that got stolen, we want title to that car because we now own it. If they take title to the car because they now own it, well, now they've just acquired an asset. But the asset is something they can't sell because they haven't got possession of it. So do they really want the title to a car that's not in anybody's possession that they know of? And so I've heard people have told me this, that if the car gets stolen and it doesn't look like it'll get recovered, we don't bother going through the motions of getting the titles because why bother? And what are we going to do? Literally hang on to the title for 30 years and hope the car gets found? No, they don't want to hang on to that because why? It's a lost cause. So that's the thing. But keep in mind that not every car out there was insured for theft. So a lot of these cases I've had where, and again, I've handled a few of these, I tell the story and people go, well, they don't get the car back. No, it belongs to the insurance company now. Not in any of the cases I had. So there you go. But this is a weird one because the guy's car got stolen. A couple months later, he goes to replace it and finds somebody selling his car. He just didn't realize it until after he bought it. So there you go. Doug and Dennis both, thanks for sending that from the BBC. Man discovers he's bought his own stolen car. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. Problems are not stop signs, they are guidelines.